Well, good evening, folks. Welcome back to the farm. Guess what day it is? It is mail day. Yes, I'm not a big fan of Amazon, but every once in a while, I do participate in filling Jeff Bezos' pockets. So, what are we working on today? What could be in the mystery package? Well, you may have seen floating around here sometime in previous years something. Oh, it's right over here. The no-freeze chicken water that I designed. I say designed, basically hodgepodge together. I took a conventional, what is this, octagonal, hexagonal, I'm not sure how many sides are in there. I think it's octagonal, vacuum style water. I put some heat trace around it, put tuck tape all over that, and then I insulated it. And this works fantastic. Outside the chicken coop, no moisture in the chicken coop, till about minus 17. And then what I find is that the red tray freezes up. And I mean, if you're lucky, you maybe just keep a little bit by the spigot there clear. So it has its drawbacks, like it has its limitations. We'll say that, anyways. So pretty good most of the time when you have a fairly mild winter. Anyways, those ones are kind of at the end of life. This is the year number 5, I think, for them. And the trays are cracked. I've siliconed the trays a couple times. You get looking at to replace the trays, starts to get pretty expensive. And then, well, I mean, you're still dealing with a 5-year-old container, which is probably going to crack next year. So what I did this summer when we had the turkeys is I bought this one, which is the same concept. It's just round, but I got this one for significantly cheaper from Princess Auto. And I got thinking, and I'm like, I don't really want to wrap heat trace around this thing, because while it did work, I had to keep it outside the chicken house for the most part, because I was like, wrap heat trace around a thing, that's a pretty good way to start a fire. If it happens outside and the heat trace gets hot and then it melts the jug and then all the water dumps all over it, the breaker's going to trip and who cares, right? Happens inside the chicken house, there's a potential, you're going to light up some sawdust and maybe have some roasted chickens in the middle of the night. Not good for anybody. Really cuts into your breakfast time. So we're going to try and do this one without insulating it. So that's where the mystery package comes in. Just don't mind my blueberry pies and my buns and this is all loop stuff. And this looks just like, it looks like a pizza box. But it's not pizza in here. It is I had this delivered to my office in town and everybody's wondering what it was. And I said, well, I could make macaroni and cheese in my office here now, because this is, yes, as you can see right there, a hot plate for your chicken water. So basically this is exactly the same concept as wrapping heat trace around this thing, except it's way different. You just weave it back and forth and put it underneath an old cake pan, and then put some foam-backed insulation underneath of it, tie a zip tie on it, and Robert's your mother's brother. It's got a 10-foot power cord. I'm really hoping this doesn't burn the chicken house down. But what I'm going to do is, because in the chicken house right now, I have on the floor, I have an old aluminum rim off my pickup. If you recall, earlier this year, we got T-boned in an intersection, and Buddy ran right into the side of the box of my truck and bent that rim. So when I went to the body shop, I got a new rim, and then they just leave the old rim in the box of the truck. Like, I don't know what you want to do with this thing, but so I've used a couple. Previously, I cracked a rim, and I used that for a minnow feeder out in the field. But this one I took in the chicken house, and it's a really good way to set the water up on top of it. And that way, when the deep litter, the bedding starts to build up and up and up and up, I don't get sawdust and crud and crap and whatnot in my tray. It's also a really good way to make sure that something that might be a little warmer than, just the human touch doesn't come into contact with some flammable material, aka the sawdust. So, but anyways, we're going to plug this thing in here. Amazon says this thing gets to 75 degrees. That's really why I want to keep this thing off the ground and on a metal base. 75 degrees seems like a lot, but it's only 30 watts. So that's really low wattage. That's like a light bulb. So let's plug it in here and see what it does. All right, so it's been on for about 30 seconds. I can put my hand on there. It's definitely warm in the center. It's not hot yet, but it is warm. I was a little bit concerned because there's no thermostat. There's no on-off switch. It's just plug it in and go. So really hoping I don't burn my hand on this thing. Of course, I'm also really hoping that it doesn't melt the bottom of the chicken water. The diagram over here shows that it's suitable for plastic or for the metal kind. But I mean, you can see the email there, right? jangfanggo402@126.com. That probably tells you everything you need to know about where it's made. I know somewhere around here I got one. I used to own, well, I probably still own, I may have lent it to somebody, I'm not sure. But a heat, not a heat gun, but a temperature gun. And I have no idea where it's at. My wife would tell me that's my own problem because I don't take care of stuff and put it away where it belongs. And she would be 100% right. But that's not the point right now. The point is, where is it at? Not here. I thought it might be in, yeah, like a guy wants to reach in there. I thought it might be in there because that's, I used it one time actually to check the temperature on the water when we were doing birds, doing poultry. And I wanted to make sure I got the water at 70 degrees Celsius, but it's not there, thankfully, because I wouldn't want to reach in there to grab it because that would probably end in Band-Aids. Aha. I mean, not that far off of Band-Aids, but can the hacksaw and a coping saw still work? Oh, yeah. All right, let's see here. That doesn't seem right. It seems way hotter than that when you touch it. Yeah, that's way hotter than 19 degrees. What do we got going on here? That can't be right. Is this reading in like Celsius or Fahrenheit? It's 30 Celsius. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. This thing must need to be calibrated. I'm guessing I'm not getting an accurate reading off of that because it's shiny. And so that laser is probably bouncing right back and giving it a false reading. But anyways, you touch it, it's uncomfortable to touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that plastic tray off that old waterer. I'm going to set it on there for 15 minutes or so. Make sure it doesn't actually like go into full meltdown. Boil some water. Do anything, you know, untoward. And then we'll maybe put this thing into service in a couple days. It's still going to be like 7 degrees tomorrow, so I don't think we're going to need it just yet. Anyways, one thing you do have to be aware of. So even with this one, with the no freeze chicken water with the heat trace wrapped around it, you fill this thing right up to here, you put the lid on, you go to plug it in. Now if that water's 3 or 4 degrees and then you plug it in and it warms up, you're going to get thermal expansion in there, right? So then that's naturally going to push out of here. If you got more thermal expansion inside your vessel than you have room for inside your trough, that's going to spill probably onto the floor of your chicken coop if you're keeping this indoors. So make sure you leave yourself 3 to 4 inches of head space. That way, if this gets real, the liquid in here gets hot, you've got a vapor space to absorb some of that thermal expansion. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a couple cups of room. But if you're right up to the top, that thing gets hot. It's going to go bloop, 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 bloop. And then before you know it, your chicken house is stinking and what's going on there? A bunch of ammonia and all kinds of, because you got too much moisture in there. Best case scenario, keep this whole assembly outside. But if we get into the minus 40s, minus 35s, minus 40s, that's just not as feasible. So you can see this is my current configuration. I'm not going to leave this water in here, like I said, while the weather's mild, but I just wanted to show you how that steel rim keeps the water off the floor, out of the sawdust. So as the sawdust layers build up in here, it keeps the water clean. But even right now, when there's just, you know, just a 3 or 4 inch layer of sawdust in the bottom, it's plenty easy for the chickens to reach in there. They can get their water nice and easy. Anyhow, I'm going to haul this out of here because there's no need for it to be in here right now. When it gets to be, like I said, past that minus 17 mark, and the insulated one, well, this one's only going to work to like minus 2, of course, but I think it's going to be 7 degrees tomorrow, something like that. So it can afford to sit outside. Then once we get really down below freezing, I'll use that one with the heat trace on it till we get to minus 20. And then I'm gonna have to come inside with it and I'll try that heated bottom. We'll see how it works. So probably not gonna know for a few days, maybe a few weeks, something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the timeline is gonna be, but that should give me enough time to trial that on a concrete floor with the plastic there, just to make sure nothing's gonna burn down. Because I'm not a big advocate for anything electric in the chicken house, with maybe the exception of, you know, a light bulb so that you can see what you're doing in here, kind of thing. But we're gonna give it a crack. We're gonna give it a crack, because fresh water is critical for chickens. There's, I mean, some folks get away just fine with snow, but we've had a couple years here where we really haven't had any snow. And the snow we had went to a freeze-thaw cycle, so it got real hard real quick and crusty, and then so they don't go eat it. And I mean, there's plenty of studies out there that show that if you got to expend a whole pile of energy just to melt the snow in your belly, that you're not really getting the benefits from it in terms of hydration. So pretty important that when it gets super cold that we do move that water inside the coop, even though there's risk of, you know, getting a little bit odoriferous inside the chicken house here. Odoriferous is a word, right? Yeah, odoriferous. That's what we're gonna run with. I'm gonna look that up right now just to make sure I'm not correct. I think that's a word. Yeah, it's a word. Emitting an odor, especially a fragrance. Whatever comes out of that chicken house as a result of moisture is likely not what you would classify as a fragrance per se. But it'll be, what are they? Stings the nostrils. Anyways, let's just check back in on this thing here. Hey, look, there's nothing red stuck to the bottom. Doesn't feel super hot down there. Feels pretty daggone hot when you touch it though. So that thing still says it's only 22 degrees. That clearly is not. My gut instinct is to get some black spray paint and just spray paint a dot in there, but I will be the first person to ship that thing right back to China if it doesn't work. And a black spot spray paint in the middle would prevent me from doing that. Anyways, normally if I found something pretty cool, I'd leave you a link down below in the comment section or in the description of this video. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be liable for somebody else's chicken house burning to the ground. But if you're watching this video winter of 2025 or later, yeah, look for a link in the comment section or in the description. Because if it hasn't burned down the chicken house by then, I will try to remember, and I will put a link in this video specifically so that, yeah, you can go and you can maybe have a look at that or something similar, and keep your chicken water from freezing. Anyhow, on that note, I'm gonna let you go for now. I'm running to get myself a cup of tea here. So hope you're having a fantastic evening. We'll see you tomorrow.